Hi, my name is Justin Samuel. I'm the founder of LessBits. We make server management software, security software, and hosting automation software. I was originally a web developer and a sysadmin. One of my first jobs, a programming job where I also was learning, cutting my teeth on being a sysadmin, I became responsible for the company's server security and started taking responsibility for application security too. And I just got really into security. So I'd be finding vulnerabilities in our company's software, and finding vulnerabilities in our competitors' software, and researching and learning things about vulnerabilities, and teaching myself, just on the internet, and finding vulnerabilities in like hosting control panel software that we used. I was falling in love with security. I just loved it. I was on fire. I spent my free time just digging and digging, and I hit this point, this was early 2000s, where I just realized that I wanted to be a security expert, and I was going to have to go back to school and get a CS degree to get the fundamentals to truly do that. So that's what I did. I went back to school. While there, I got involved with research as an undergrad, and things just started snowballing from there. I fell in love with research. I took time off even before grad school to do more research, and went into a PhD program, and it was an amazing experience. I met amazing people. I learned so much, and like some of the work I did there, I'm super proud of the impact that it had. For example, some of the work we did was finding vulnerabilities in basically every major Linux distribution's package managers. These vulnerabilities, they range from, they affect like Red Hat, Fedora, Ubuntu, Debian, even outside of the categories of these vulnerabilities. We found them even outside of Linux, like in BSDs. And to exploit these, what it took was a man-in-the-middle attack, and we found that this was a situation where you didn't need to take control of network traffic, intercept packets and this kind of thing. You actually could just volunteer to be a man in the middle, essentially, because of the low barrier towards offering to become a community mirror for these different package manager repositories. So it was amazing. We went and notified all the distros so they could work on fixes before we announced these vulnerabilities. In the process of our research, we collected lots of data from servers that were vulnerable, hitting the mirror that we ran. We saw military computers and government computers, all these things, and knowing that all these systems were vulnerable, and that the work that I had done had impact on securing all of this. It was just absolutely amazing. We published our research and moved on to other research. So yeah, that was amazing. But that kind of practical, immediate impact research is generally not the focus of academic research. And for me, it's that practical, immediate impact that really drives me. I wanted to build software and make impact, and people can use it now. And seeing the huge opportunities that were happening with all the cloud progress that was happening, it just drove me from academia back into industry. So that's enough about me. I want to talk today about how modern clouds and software have just totally swung open the doors for entrepreneurs to take on old established industries. So you may have seen this quote before, or some variation of it. The original quote doesn't say success, instead it says luck. So luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Well, since you're here watching this and you're participating in DigitalOcean Deploy, the world is changing, and that with all these cloud technology changes and so much changing so quickly, that there's endless possibilities and there's endless opportunities. So the opportunity is there, and you know it, and I know it. It's that's a fact right now. And add to that fact that you've been on the forefront learning. You're watching this, you're participating in these things, you're what's happening in the market and the industry, keeping your eyes open. You're prepared. So this is a unique time. You look at this statement, and think about where that fits for you. So everywhere you look, costs are going down. And those are not only costs in dollars, but also costs in time and energy. So cost of infrastructure management and just infrastructure itself, cost of development, cost of learning, cost of reaching customers, cost of every service that you use. And there's new services being launched every day that let you save even more time and more money and do more with a smaller team. Your ability as a small or mid-sized company to compete with giant and established competitors just keeps increasing every day. And that means competition both in reinventing those existing industries as well as defining completely new ones. And it's long been said, you've heard before that new companies have an innovation advantage over established companies. And it's true, and it gets more true every day. And you can hear big companies just explicitly talking about how they're trying to act like startups because they want to innovate and they see that startups are eating their lunch. But if any of you have seen the inside of a big company, you know that between the existing culture they've created and how hard it is to change the direction of any big ship, they just don't stand a chance against the right entrepreneur who understands how to build for this modern world. And so what are those things that you know that they don't? Well, among some of them are the critical importance of simplicity and support for your customers, combined with providing them platforms to build their businesses on top of. So technology is inherently complicated. Companies like Lessbits and DigitalOcean are simplifying. We're taking things that were once difficult and required huge time investments and turning them into beautiful, easy, empowering tools and experiences. And add into that a clear focus on building trust and making your customers successful through amazing support. And then on top of all that, instead of just selling your customer a product, actually knowing how to provide them a platform for them to innovate on top of and build their business on top of. And that's what we did with ServerPilot. So ServerPilot was our first product. We launched around the same time as DigitalOcean did. I think DigitalOcean was 2012. We came out of beta in 2013. ServerPilot was born from a problem I'd been dealing with firsthand since the early 2000s, which was managing a Linux server for hosting high-end client websites was just way more complicated than it needed to be. There was existing hosting control panel software on the market, but it was software that was built in the late 90s, and it was built for the shared hosting industry. And that hosting industry, it was the software they needed was to solve a different problem. They were trying to pack a lot of low-end, low-value customers on expensive, dedicated hardware. So that's just a totally different market and totally different use case. And I'd been an early adopter of VPSs, cloud servers, since the early 2000s. And throughout the 2000s, I watched and continued to do server administration. I was doing admin work for digital agencies that had high-end clients, famous brands, marketing sites for large financial companies. And they hosted their clients on cloud servers. But they used the same control panel software that was made for the shared hosting industry. Why? That's all there was. So years for me of being responsible for that stuff, dealing with the breakage on upgrades, security problems, compromises due to zero-day exploits, terrible UX, just tons of features that were obsolete or never needed in the first place packed in there because that was old software philosophy, just keep packing stuff in there and that's what value is. But I knew that I wasn't the only one who needed something better than that. And it was clear that a greater migration was going to happen. It wasn't just my frustration. Cloud servers were getting cheaper and there was only one direction it was going to go in. And the industry was changing and some of the web hosts out there, they didn't care. They were fine just extracting profit from what they already had, which is fine. There's nothing wrong or immoral about that. Others, though, they did, want to adapt, but they didn't have the culture and they didn't have the vision to do that. And it's one of those things that if a company isn't built with that culture and that vision is part of its DNA, it just can't develop that overnight. So when DigitalOcean launched, they caused an earthquake in the hosting industry. Suddenly, not only could you get a $5 cloud server rather than a $20 cloud server, but it was also just crazy easy to use. DigitalOcean, they boiled it down. They'd made cloud servers unintimidating. Like why should you need to choose your partitions? Why shouldn't your default options just be sane, opinionated ones? Why shouldn't you have a server in just a minute with a couple of clicks? Why should you have to feel like an expert to have a cloud server? And since then, every hosting company has had their eyes glued to DigitalOcean. They're afraid. Every major hosting company's executives are afraid. They talk about it. They've talked about it with me. They're sitting on a cash cow. But as this mass migration happens and the world changes, they might get left behind. And, for the ones that don't adapt, they probably should be left behind. And it just shouldn't be hard in this day and age to start an amazing hosting company in a world when there's things like DigitalOcean and ServerPilot. And that's why we built HostLaunch. So HostLaunch is built on what I think personally should be a really obvious concept. which is why should it be hard to launch an absolutely amazing, modern, managed hosting company built on top of DigitalOcean, ServerPilot, and Stripe? So DigitalOcean has solved cloud servers. ServerPilot has solved server management. Stripe solved payments. We don't live in this world that gave birth to traditional hosting companies that had to go find a colo to stuff their hardware in, write their own software, or take off-the-shelf ancient shared hosting company software, fax forms to open a merchant account to accept credit cards. That's not the world we live in. That's what hosting companies, that's what they had to do. And all of their software and culture and infrastructure and everything, like down to their bones is old like that and built like that. Instead, we made it so you can have your own hosting company in minutes on modern platforms. You just drop in your API keys for DigitalOcean, ServerPilot, Stripe, set your prices, and you have your own awesome, amazing modern hosting company. And so part of what's going on with this new world of cloud infrastructure and services is that like totally new architectures and business models are possible now. You can focus your innovation at a higher level. So for example, ServerPilot was the world's first software as a service control panel. At the time we launched, it seemed crazy to some people because they thought that control panels are supposed to run on each server and they're supposed to expose a plain HTTP insecure web interface on some port just out there for the world, right? That's just how it's always been done and that's how it's supposed to be. Same with DigitalOcean. When they launched, it seemed crazy to some people. Like, how can you build a business when you have customers who want to pay $5 for a server? This was a world where the cloud was, people thought was for enterprise, and $5 seemed like a stupid idea to some people. Well, certainly not stupid or crazy now. So what other innovations are possible in a world where the number of cloud servers is just exploding and being used for every purpose imaginable and being used by every type of user imaginable? So here's another example from our latest product launch. An agent-based mod security implementation running on your server that allows you to use industry standard web application firewall technology through a WordPress plugin and managed centrally as a SaaS service. So that's a lot, but think about it. So for more than a decade, eager WordPress plugin developers have been trying to roll their own WAF and PHP code. Why didn't they just use the same industry standard WAF engine, mod security, that the rest of the industry uses? The same thing that Cloudflare uses and lots of enterprises use. Why? Because WordPress plugins are written in PHP and mod security isn't written in PHP. But why not run mod security at a local agent that a WordPress plugin can talk to? Well, 10 years ago, there wasn't a market for it because everyone was on shared hosting and you can just install your own server software. But as WordPress sites undergo this mass migration to cloud providers like DigitalOcean, people have control over what runs on their servers. And this is it's a huge migration, like a huge percentage of DigitalOcean's clients and customers and servers are WordPress and WordPress developers. And so this is a whole new ballgame for WordPress. And this is just one example. There's so much room for innovation now with this massive shift of hosting to cloud servers. And that innovation, it doesn't just have to be new developer tools. Like today's fast, easy, reliable, secure cloud services allow developers all kinds of ability to identify new markets where they can create innovative solutions. So one of my favorites as an example is this company Reserva. So Reserva, they're a SaaS booking service that's used by barbershops all throughout the world and other clients too who need to manage and schedule appointments. So the company who makes Reserva, they started off as a digital agency building beautiful websites and awesome web applications for their clients. And the whole time, they were dreaming of something bigger. They wanted to put their passion and energy and love into building their own product, not just being contracted to build products for others. And they were an early adopter of ServerPilot. Their team, they're extremely efficient, productive. I'm just constantly impressed by what they can do with their team. And they leverage their success as an agency to create Reserva. Now Reserva is their core business. And part of the way it got that way is just by being so efficient, by choosing amazingly smart tools to build on top of and keep an eye on technology. And they're constantly looking for ways to innovate, figuring out with us and other companies how to leverage new solutions to add value for their clients. They could have been sitting around the past 10 years doing the same things over and over and over again and getting the same results. But that's not in their blood. And we're going to keep innovating too. We've got more ideas than we can build, and we'll get there. But most importantly, we need great people, and our customers need great people too. We firmly believe, and we build our business around the idea that we're successful when our customers are successful. And so that's why, for example, the host launch pricing is that you only pay when you have paying customers. It doesn't cost you anything to start your hosting company. This makes it very clear for us internally, that we're focused on our customers growing their businesses on top of our platforms. And that's also why we're helping our customers such as Reserva hire. We can help our customers grow by connecting them with talented people. And those talented people are often customers of ours. So if you're looking for career options, or if you use our software and are looking to hire, please take a look at lessbits.com/careers. We love helping people. We're building a company for people who love to learn and who want to grow professionally and personally. And we've attracted amazing people to our team. I know everyone says their team's amazing, but honestly, it's just crazy exciting to be a part of this team right now. And a huge part of our goal is not only to build an awesome set of products and that our customers love, but also to build an amazing company that we just want to stay a part of. We want people who can grow with us, with our company, and people who want to be with us on this journey for the long run. So there are a lot of jobs out there. Nothing in this company is just a job. If you're interested, please get in touch. Thanks for your time. I'm looking forward to your questions.